Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey. Are you spiritually alive? Maybe you need a spiritual renewal. Yeah, let's get out of that tomb, and we're going to be talking more about that with Debbie Giorgianni and Adam Blai on The Next Right Thing right now. Good morning, Debbie and Adam.
Good morning, Keith. Happy Monday to you. Thank you so much for having us. This is The Next Right Thing. I am Debbie Giorgianni with Adam Blai, and Adam and I just got back to our homes. Adam in Pittsburgh, and I'm back in Gilbert, Arizona, and we spent just a glorious weekend in Dallas, Adam, and we just have to say thank you to everybody again, because was it amazing, all the fine folks that turned out in the pouring rain to be with us for several hours, and we learned and we grew together, we made new friends. It was fabulous.
Yeah, it was, Deb. It's really humbling, and this is such a journey for me in life, doing some work with Catholic media, to meet people and hear that they listen to the show, either the Spirit World or Morning Joy or both. It's just really kind of surreal and humbling. But the thing that I find the most exciting about it is I see people that are coming in and they seem to be devout, they're carrying their rosary, they're maybe coming back to the faith and practicing their faith, they're leaving behind, some of their doubts or maybe things that they dropped, and, they're picking them back up, and they're getting back to Mass, they're getting back to confession.
Right.
So, yeah, it's just beautiful. It's all Jesus. It's what he's inspiring in them. But we get to kind of participate in that in Catholic media, so it was a neat weekend.
It really was, and a lot of the fine folks that turned out for the event said, "Can you do this in another city? Could you do this in Houston? Could you do this, in another great city, so we could get together and learn and grow?" And so so many things are on the table, and so many great options that we can possibly do in the future. But for the next right thing for this. For this particular segment, we wanted to highlight what came out of the Dallas event for the weekend, and what was a recurring theme of people coming to the event. And you're right, Adam, they came wanting to go deeper, and it had to do with unforgiveness. And we talked a lot about it. And so I just want to put the question out there. If you're struggling with unforgiveness right now, if you're struggling, please call this number. Let's talk about it. But you got to go quickly. 877-757-9424. Okay, so we just pulled one theme that was coming out of the event, where people were saying, well, what does this mean? If I have some unforgiveness in my heart, if there's things I'm still attached to when it comes to not being able to overcome that with dealing with a person or a situation, what's going to happen to me? When I die, what does that mean? Does God understand that I couldn't forgive because it was so painful and abusive and horrible and traumatic? Or is there work to be done on this side of the veil? And so, Adam, I'd love for you to address that first. And let me give the number one more time. If you're struggling with unforgiveness, call us, 877-757-9424. We want you to be free this morning of it, and we believe we can help you with it. Go, take it away, Adam.
Sure, Deb. So, there was something I picked up in psychology, studying psychology in grad school years ago, that has always stuck with me. And one of my professors, we were actually either getting on or getting off an elevator, and it was a clinic day, and I was, seeing clients in the training clinic. And somehow, I forget what we were chatting about, but he said a phrase, which was freedom within limitations. And the idea that, in a sense, all of therapy can be seen as trying to increase the range of choices that a person can engage in life. So if you think of when you've been wounded, or when there's been difficulties or fears or hurts, it will narrow the range of your choices that you think you can choose in each moment in life, in each big choice in life. And so the more kind of life beats us up and maybe people hurt us, we kind of get in a shell. and we hunker down and we get scared. And that fear of getting hurt again limits our choices. And if we get hurt too much, we kind of get in a state where we don't even want to go out. We don't even want to try anything. And so that therapy was an increasing of the freedom within the natural limitations of life. So nobody is 100% free. Nobody is 100%, seeing every possible option before them. We're all within limitations. And I think that's the part that God understands. As human beings, we are affected by our life. Nobody has a perfect life. Nobody had a perfect childhood. Nobody has perfect relationships today. But what Jesus can help us do is increase the range of choices, the choices to love, the choices to forgive, the choices to rise above maybe our wounded hearts that want to shy away and not love and not take a chance. And so I do think God understands, but we have to ask for the help. We need to invite God into our lives, invite the Holy Spirit into our lives, and ask God to help us and to make up for the unforgiveness that we can't quite get there yet. We're going to grow, hopefully, in life, and we're going to grow further and further. But in our relationships right now, our relationships with our own sins, with other people's sins that have wounded us, just with life in general, we can ask Jesus to help us and to make up for what we can't do right now. But that doesn't mean we're off the hook, Deb.
Right.
We need to
Right.
keep striving to grow and widen our possibilities in life over time. But I do think he understands, and God works with us where we're at.
Mm-hmm. And we are getting some phone calls, so that is great. So we're Tim is talking to that person that is calling right now. So on the other side of the break, we will bring them on air with us, and we'll talk about this unforgiveness, being stuck in unforgiveness. But the reason why we wanted to bring this up is when we were at the Dallas event at the Terry Center at the Jesuit prep school, there was almost 400 folks there. And when we shared this what Adam is talking about this morning about giving, asking God to help, asking Jesus to step in and fill in where we're lacking, right? Where we have this difficulty to fully forgive someone or some situation. The light bulbs, right, Adam? You could see the light bulbs going off in people's heads, like almost like a sense of relief. Like, wow, I don't have to do all of it. I can ask Jesus. See, there's that cooperation, there's that participation, there's that group effort. You and Jesus forgiving those who have hurt you. It really is a very freeing understanding, Adam, when you feel like, because I think sometimes when we're wounded, now if there's very extreme abuse and trauma, that's a whole different story, and that requires a lot of therapy, a lot of work, a lot of it could be a lifelong process. But for the rest of us who have kind of just been hurt along the way in different situations, to hear that we could just do a little with a good intention, and God really rushes in and helps us with the rest. That is very, very freeing, and it makes people feel like, hey, I can do that, right, Adam? Where as opposed to saying, gosh, I'm going to go into the next life with all of this baggage of unforgiveness, and that's not healthy, and that's what's going to lead to an extended stay in purgatory.
Yeah, the idea is do what you can now, meaning what you can handle, what your emotional life, what your mental life, the flexibility that affords you. Do what you can now instead of saying, well, I can't completely forgive, so I'll just give up and drop it, and I'll just avoid that for the rest of my life. To do what you can and ask Jesus to make up the rest, and then continue to work on that through life and try to grow and maybe revisit that, a little bit later, or in a later interaction with that person or a similar person in your life, and continue to grow. But don't just throw your hands up and say, well, I can't do it completely, so I just won't do it.
Well, and also don't throw up your hands completely and saying, okay, God, you saw completely the unfair unjust, horrible situation that how I was treated by my loved one, my spouse, the betrayal, the hurt, the woundedness, my parents. You saw it, God. You saw all of it. So you obviously you understand that I cannot forgive this great sin that was done to me, right? So you don't want to get in that position, either, because that can put you in a sense of just assuming that there's no work to be done, and I think that's an unhealthy spiritual state, because it implies that, well, okay, I saw it was unfair, so I'm going to play God, and you must see that it was unfair as well, God, right?
Yeah, Deb, we're not perfect. We're not going to attain perfection in this life. Only God is perfect. Only God is completely good. And so, yes, it's we are not to judge others,
That's right.
as if we hold that standard. Only God holds that standard, which is, that's part of the reason why we need to be gentle and merciful towards each other.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, when we come back, Amber from Belvedere, Illinois on Catholic Spirit Radio is waiting so patiently. So Amber, hang on. It's just a couple minutes. We're going to send it back to Keith for some important announcements. When we come back, we're talking about this idea of this unforgiveness and how the work needs to be done on this side of the veil, guys. That's in this, what we call life, right? In this worldly life that we live, the work has to be done here. So we hopefully can go straight to the beatific vision when we leave this earth. The idea is to get rid of all that baggage here. Don't wait till after you die and then hope that it's all going to be taken away, because that's where purgatory comes into play. So that's what we're talking about today, getting rid of this heavy weight of the unforgiveness that we carry. And let's face it, we all carry it. We've all been hurt. I mean, from the moment probably we started walking, we started getting hurt by people. It's just the way the world is. But when we come back, we'll speak with Amber, and great topic today on the next right thing. So for now, we'll hold it there and send it back to Keith.
Awesome. Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you so much, Debbie and Adam. And yes, Amber, hold on tight. We're going to get to your call right after this break. And speaking of calls, if you have something to share, or maybe you have a question about unforgiveness, this is the best time to call. That number is 877-757-9424. And if this particular topic really calls to you and it really speaks to you, maybe you're unable to catch the entirety of the segment of The Next Right Thing, that's where our social media comes into play. This is the perfect time to go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and make sure to keep an eye open for this specific segment, The Next Right Thing. I mean, obviously, you can go ahead and watch the entirety of Morning Joy Where Truth Matters, but if you don't have all of the time to focus on the entire hour, 2 hours, you can catch The Next Right Thing with Debbie Giorgianni and Adam Blai specifically. Now, coming up next, we're continuing this conversation on unforgiveness. If you have something to share about that, or need help on getting through something of that nature, 877-757-9424. We'll see you right after this break.
You're listening to Morning Joy, where truth matters.